Alright, good afternoon everybody. Today we're going to be doing lesson 3.1, it's multiplying fractions. And for those of you guys that don't know, it is pages 63, 64, which is the back, 65, and page 66. So if you guys don't have that out, go ahead and get that for me please. And then we're going to teach you some fun, fast information about multiplying fractions like our pants are on fire. Alright guys, so on page 63, our essential question is, how do you multiply fractions? So today what I want you guys to learn is how you do actually multiply fractions. So go ahead and get situated so you can go ahead and start copying down questions A through E, the notes, and go ahead and pause the video now, and then I'll pick up from there in just a second. This little picture right here on the side, I want you guys to notice that it's colored green, but the top half of it is actually pink, so it's double shaded. We'll talk more about that, but if you read the instructions, it'll kind of explain to you why that is, but I want you guys to take note of that as well. Alright, I'm on page 64 now, and just pointing it out again, we do have the QR code up here, so if you're still struggling, make sure you guys are checking that out. Go ahead and read through example 1, and then as you're reading through, you can look at those questions, try to answer them on your own, but then there are the answers that we chose. So go ahead and pause the video and take care of page 64. Okay, so we're on to page 65 now. We're going to start with the your turn. It says multiply, write each product in simplest form. So these are the answers for those 4 problems. What I'd like you to do is, in just a second, pause the video and see if you can come up with those answers based off the notes that we've taken so far, and then you can use the answers that we have as a little check. Alright, now we're in example 2. It's got the little iguana, kind of looks like Mr. Nelson. Make sure you tell him that tomorrow. So go ahead and read through example 2, and then look at the reflect and see if you guys kind of come up with the same ideas that we did. Alright guys, so we're on the last page, so what I want you to do is go ahead and look at your turn, see if you can answer those few questions. Remember, these answers that we have are correct, but we don't want you to just copy it down. We want you to kind of look at it, see if you know what we're doing, but use those as a reference just to make sure that you're on the right track. So go ahead and pause the video and work on those, and then when you get back, we'll get to your favorite part, the guided practice. Okay, so let's take a look at question number 1 on the guided practice, and it says, Lisa, Taryn, and Catherine go to a store to buy party supplies. The store has a sale on the supplies that they want for 3/4 the original price. The girls agree to each pay 1/3 of the cost. So part A says to draw a model to show what fraction of the original price they will each pay. So they said they each want to pay 3/4 the original price. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this lovely pink pen, and I'm going to color in 3/4 of our picture. So that's the first part. And then after that, it says that the girls agree to each pay 1/3 of the cost. So I'm going to break what our 3/4 up into thirds. So I'm going to draw a line horizontally across, and now we've taken each of their sections and broken it up into thirds. So if each girl wants to pay 1/3, I'm going to shade in 1/3 of those sections. Okay, so part B says what fraction of the original price did each girl pay? Well, we have 12 total pieces. That's how many boxes that are in this figure, and we have 3 of those boxes that are shaded both pink and green. So it is 3/12, and if we simplify that, we end up with 1/4. So each girl paid 1/4 the price for their party supplies. Alright, part C says write the multiplication shown by the model. Okay, so what part C is asking us to do is show in the actual algebraic math way that we found it, rather than just looking at the picture. So what we did is we took 1/3, which is up in our data, and multiplied it by 3/4, which is also up in our data, and you could look at our picture to see that as well. And like you learned in today's lesson so far, to multiply fractions, we multiply our numerators together. So 1 times 3 is 3, and 4 times 3 is 12. And again, once we simplify 3/12, we get 1/4. So it's just another way to solve that problem as well as see it from a different perspective. Alright, so question D said, did the fraction representing the sale price increase or decrease when multiplied by 1/3? The answer is that the fraction decreased and here's why. When we took 1/3 and multiplied it by 3/4, it meant that we were taking 1/3 of the 3/4. So this result will always be less than 3/4. Alright, sorry guys, while I was explaining part D, Mr. Nelson decided to make a funny joke and it distracted me, so I went ahead and wrote out what I said just in case you wanted to copy it down as well. Let's take a look at this next part where it says multiply and write each product in simplest form. So we're going to look at question number 2 here. So if you guys want to go ahead and make a star on that, we'll probably ask you guys about 3 and 4 later in class. But the first thing that we need to do when we're multiplying fractions is multiply across from our numerators. So 1 times 5 is going to give you 5, and 2 times 8 will give you 16. So all I did, guys, was I multiplied my numerators together, 1 times 5, and I wrote that as my new numerator. And then I multiplied 2 times 8, and I made that my new denominator. Okay, we're going to take a look at number 3 because there's something special about this problem, and I want you guys to have another example to know what to do when you see it again. So 3 and 9 are multiples of each other, so we can reduce both of them by dividing both by 3. So if we do this, if we divide both of these numbers by 3, we end up with 1 over 5 and 5 over 3. Okay, so now our new fraction reads 1/5 times 5 over 3. And so if I multiply these across the same as we did on number 2, we multiply our numerators together. 1 times 5 is going to give us 5 again, and 5 times 3 is going to give us 15. And then we can simplify that to 1/3. And so that's one way that you can simplify before you multiply, and then we had to simplify one more time to get to 1/3. Alright guys, so we are now in the last section, so we're going to find each amount. Okay, so the way I want to approach these next couple questions, I want to present them to you as a word problem. So number 5 says 1/4 of 12 bottles of water. So I want you guys to think about this as you have 4 buddies and you want to split up all 12 of your water bottles. So I want to know how many water bottles will you have at the end of splitting it with your 4 buddies. Okay, so the way we're going to do this is we're going to take 1/4, we're going to multiply it by 12 over 1, because remember, when we have a whole number, it's always over 1, but that's how we put it into a fraction so that we can still multiply them together. So again, we're just going to take our numerators and multiply across the top. So 1 times 12 is 12, and 4 times 1 is 4. So now I've ended up with this improper fraction of 12 over 4. So I'm going to fix that, and if I divide 12 by 4, because we have our divisor, which is 4, go ahead and write that down just as a reminder, and our dividend is 12. So the dividend always goes in the house, and the divisor is always breaking it up. So 12 divided by 4 is going to give us 3. So if all of your buddies were to get 1/4 of the 12 water bottles, you guys would all end up with 3. Alright, and for our last one, let's look at number 6. So we have 2/3 of 24 bananas. So think about it this way. You go to Brazil and you want to pick some bananas off of a tree, and you end up with 24, and we want to split it up into thirds for you, your brother, and your sister. I want to know what your brother and your sister would get, so I want to know what 2/3 of those 24 are. So again, we're going to set up our fraction of 2/3, and we're going to multiply it by 24 over 1, because 24 is a whole number, so remember it's always over 1. And then I would ask you guys what to do next, but you guys can't answer, so I'm going to tell you. We're going to multiply our numerators together, and 24 times 2 is going to give us 48. And then we're going to divide that by 3 times 1, which is 3. And then we're going to take our dividend, put it in the house, and divide it by the divisor, and that would give us 16 bananas. And that's how we would do numbers 5 and 6. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up our lesson for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Go ahead and try to answer the essential question number 9, and we will look at that tomorrow in class. Make sure you do the Google Doc. Make sure you put what questions you have and then hit submit, because that's the only way it's going to show up on our computer. So that's the only way we're going to give you credit. Alright guys, have a good night. We'll see you.